and put my slides up straight away. So apologies to the other two guest speakers who are probably thinking, gosh, I've got to do mine. You've got some time now to practice sharing your slide deck. Natasha, thank you so much for the opportunity to come along today and have a chance to talk about this great initiative that we're working on, which is surrounded by financial well-being, as well as some of the other elements that people within their 50s are facing as part of both the COVID backdrop and also just some of the life-changing decisions that they need to make within their 50s. And we also know that actually the improvement within financial well-being, as well as some of the other facets around physical and mental well-being, it's really, really important for this particular customer segment. We know that COVID has had an impact on so many lives, primarily through infections and loss, but also financial hardship has left a scar on many of the households across the East Anglia region, as furlough, redundancy and job insecurity has taken hold. And we also know that the financial impact that poor financial well-being has on employees' ability to do their job effectively, and the association with absenteeism and attrition rates, and as such, the impact on businesses themselves. So, Money and Pension Service. I thought today what would be quite good is to talk a little bit about who the government's Money and Pension Service is, what our research tells us about financial well-being and about particularly the 50+ community, and then to come to talk a little bit about what we have to offer as part of any financial lives improvement strategies that you may be looking at, and some of the free tools and support that we've got. So ever so quickly, I just want to talk about who we are. You may know some of our consumer-facing brands, the Money Advice Service, PensionWise, and the Pension Advisory Service. Now, back in 2018, primary legislation was passed to bring those three bodies together under the banner of what is now the Money and Pension Service. And so that everything was then put in one place to have that free, impartial guidance that's government orientated around money and pensions, but also to bring the narrative around money to be much more joined up, so that we're not talking over here on the left-hand side about pensions and over here on the right-hand side about debt advice. All of them are intrinsically linked. Why is it not moving? To do it the hard way. Right, okay. So transforming the way we are looking at financial well-being across the agenda. I think here what we really want to allude to is we're trying to normalise the conversations, much like what we've seen with the great government strategies around physical well-being and mental health well-being, and the fact that within the workplace, normalising the conversations on financial well-being are going to pay dividends, both for the people that we talk to, the colleagues we talk to, but also for the businesses themselves. So let's look at some of the statutory obligations and bring them to life to see that some of the things that we're responsible for doing. So pension guidance, I've already talked a little bit about that. So we have the Pension Advisory Service, which is available for anybody to call up and talk about their current pension service, a pension that they have, including their statutory pension and all the other various pensions that they may have earned over their time in employment. And we also have the PensionWise service, which is a free phone telephone number for anybody to call up in their 50s to talk about both pension freedoms and the associations around defined contributions and defined benefits, to really get a handle on what they need to do to look at later life planning and to ensure that they have what they are aspiring to retire on. It also then helps them with guidance and next steps. We also provide across the UK debt advice. And again, if we think about COVID and the impact that that's had on many households, debt advice is really pertinent at the moment. We fund the majority of the debt advice across the UK to the tune of around 65%, where we see places such as Citizens Advice, Step Change, Money Advice Trust work for us in delivering that important service within the regions. We also have our government website, which is the impartial, independent advice and guidance around how to handle money. Now, this website and associated telephone number looks at all nuances around things around money. So whether it's buying your first house, opening up a bank account, going to university, buying a car, through to I've been scammed, illegal money laundering, how do I get out of this situation? All elements of our money matters are covered within the some 1,700 pages of money advice and guidance. We also have on there some helpful calculators that I'll come on to a bit later. We also work with the FCA on a number of different strands that are affecting consumers around finances. The most obvious one would be when we looked at high cost credit from some of the high cost lenders such as Wonga and the unreasonable rates that they were charging consumers. And also now the problem we have with seeing deferred payments at till points around such brands as Klarna and what the impact that that could have on society. And then finally, we are responsible for delivering a 10-year strategy around financial well-being, where we're looking at what we can do to bring to life within the regions and around key stakeholders and partnerships like employers, a strategy that helps people to align to what we want to deliver around financial well-being. So let's have a look and talk about what financial well-being is, because we have many different names around finances, including financial inclusion, financial well-being, financial exclusion, poverty premium, etc. And we've tried here to articulate that, to just actually talk about what is financial well-being. So the state of play is that we know that poor financial well-being affects tens of millions of people across the UK. And just to give some context of what that looks like, across the 52 million adults in the country, we have 9 million of them before COVID actually missing out on payments or feeling that keeping up with their bills was a heavy burden. And we also saw 11 million of those people going into COVID with less than £100 in their savings account at a time when they were facing as a household maybe furloughing, which saw them being reduced to 80%, or redundancies by one of their household members. And 24 million people said that they did not feel confident to handle their finances before COVID struck. So just to also bring that to life, I wanted to just give some stats around what that looks like within the East of England. We heard Natasha talk about universal credit claimants, but actually 20% of East of England people, so that's 6 million population within the East of England, 20% of them do not have a pension at the moment other than their statutory pension. 40% of people across the East of England don't know where to turn to for help. 36% of people have direct access to debt advice. So that leaves a whopping 64% of people that don't know or can't get to debt advice should they be in any sort of financial issue. 10% of East of England use a credit card to pay for food or other essential bill items. 15% of the community across the East of England are overdrawn. 10% use high cost credit, and 9% are currently borrowing off of families. And I just want to emphasize that this is not a particular social demographic. This spans all of the social demographics from A to E around people that are affected and are included in those statistics. So what does financial well-being feel like? We know that when you can pay the bills today, you can deal with an unexpected and be on track for a financial future, that you feel in yourself stronger and your well-being generally will increase. But all of these disruptors to financial well-being at home can have a huge impact on productivity at work and performance as the issue affects our mental health. And also when we look at financial well-being, we do see that actually it affects not just the individuals, but actually spans out wider into the economy and also into businesses. We know that currently individuals, businesses and communities all actually are away from having a conversation, a normative conversation around money matters. And that makes it hard for us to actually then deliver a strategic approach. But much like what we've seen with having the normative conversations around mental health and physical health, once we are equipped to have those conversations and we start to stir up the conversation, many of the treatment strategies that need to be brought to life are easier and enabled. So now let's just quickly talk about what the case for improving financial well-being in the workplace. So as we can see there, 94% of employees admit to worrying about money, and of these, 77% that money worries impact them at work. 69% of UK employers believe that it should be the employer's job, it says employees on there, apologies, employer's job to believe that employees' job performance is negatively affected when they are under financial pressure. And 6 out of 10 employees actually believe that it's the employer's responsibility to help them with their financial well-being. bit tongue-tied there, apologies. So let's just pause on this statement here around what the estimated cost of low financial well-being is each year. So we always make the assumption that when it comes to employees, that we assume that because they are employed and we're paying them a salary, that actually their own personal situation around finances are in control. But actually what we've got to remember is that COVID has scarred many households across the UK, which means that actually one of your colleagues could actually be experiencing a household shock, and that's affecting their performance at work. Just want to go back to some of the things that Natasha said earlier. So again, across the east of England, 700,000, so that's 1 in 10 people or 1 in 10 employees are now on some form of universal credit, or employee or their household. 31% of those within the region are currently in some form of debt, and the average debt is around £7,000 to £11,000. 350 people are actually behind in their 350,000 people are behind in their counter tax. That averages out as 1 in 20 employees that are in a household that are currently struggling to make council tax as a payment. And as we know, council tax is one of the primary things that we pay because of the associations with debt and the issues around that. We also have 8 million or 800,000 within the region that have had to borrow, so that's 1 in 9 colleagues, and 9% of social renters are currently behind on their payment. So we can see that financial well-being is hurting many households across the region. Just want to talk about some of the money worries that our research has told us is that employees are facing. For those who have debt, the average amount of debt is 7,500 across the UK. That looks like 11,000 within the east of England. 36% of them have said that they have often struggled to pay off their credit cards. 45% have run out of money between paychecks. 3 in 5 people have had less than £1,000 in savings. 1 in 4 don't save regularly, and 1 in 4 are unable to cover their regular expenses for less than a month. So what we've decided to do is to come up with a UK strategy for financial well-being that allows stakeholders within the East of England region to align to a broader UK strategy for financial well-being. Now, this sets out the columns around what we believe are the 5 signature areas around helping colleagues with their own financial well-being. You can see on the screen it's linked to financial education, creating financial resilience by having a shored up nation of savers, making sure that colleagues know where to turn to access the right form of credit, signposting to earlier debt advice interventions, and looking at what we can do to improve the conversations around future focus. But you'll also notice that we've actually now got a cross-cutting lens for 3 areas, one around gender, the second around mental health. And because it's so important of what's happened with COVID, the Minister has now asked us to look at what we can do to create a cross-cutting lens around workplace engagement and making sure that colleagues feel that they are being equipped to help manage their financial well-being. So I'm going to just conscious of time, Natasha, and I know that we've got some other guest speakers. So I'm just going to come on to talk a little bit about the tools that we have available. So if this has sparked your interest and you're thinking now, what can I do to help some of those people, 1 in 10, 1 in 9 on average, that will be employed, that are probably facing some sort of household shock around financial well-being, and what can I do to help? The Money and Pension Service is designed to support and collaborate across the region with any strategic direction, but also to provide the solutions for you. I'll canter through them quickly. On our website, we have a number of different articles and videos that you can utilize, and you can take those and actually they help to shape the narrative around the conversation of financial well-being. We have printed guides available for you to communicate out to colleagues. And also, importantly, we have a selection of tools and calculators that you can syndicate to any intranet or colleague website that you decide to build for yourself. We have a number of different programs that we work on in co-creation. So we actually develop programs around payroll savings, we develop programs around financial well-being, or actually upskilling a number of colleagues within your team to look at what they can do to understand finances on our Money Guiders program. We also have the telephone number and helpline, and we also have, as I said, the syndication And we have available for people to come and do some in-house training and to talk about pensions and the pension-wise appointments that I mentioned earlier, all of which is supported by your friendly local regional partnerships manager, which is myself. If some of the people on the call today wanted to look at further strategic developments around aligned with their current wellbeing strategies that they have, we also have consultation process where we can look at the insights that you've got around your own current workforce, how we can then set up engagement surveys with your colleagues to see what matters to them around this. So specifically around if 50-year-olds is your target customer segment, colleague segment, you wanted to look at that. And then we can establish a strategy with you and help to run a pilot. So Natasha, I'm going to end on the resources that are available. I think that my email address will be made available to everybody that's on the call today. So there's also just on there some details around our financial wellbeing evidence hub. A lot of the stats that I've given you today have been taken from there about what the call to arms is, specifically around some of the over 50-year-old community. And there are also reports on what's worked well with our